Kyle Clifford, on the 9th of July last year, you went to the home of your former girlfriend, Louise Hunt, and launched a murderous attack on her and her family. You first killed her mother, Carol, who even on that day showed you nothing but kindness in the moments before you attacked her. You raped and killed Louise, who had been as gentle as she could in ending her relationship with you after your arrogance and anger proved too much for her to stand. Then you murdered Hannah Hunt, who had done nothing to harm you save supporting her little sister. The evidence I have heard shows you to be a jealous man, soaked in self-pity, a man who holds women in utter contempt. This is no occasion to subject the family and friends of your victims to any delay or suspense. I therefore make clear at once that for each of these 3 murders, the sentence will be one of life imprisonment with a whole life order. That means a sentence from which you will never be released. Your brutal and cowardly attack had been planned over about 11 days. You conducted extensive research into the movements of Louise's father, John, into her mother's Facebook page, into buying a crossbow, a knife and an air pistol, and even into the weather on the day of the attack. You bought rope, duct tape, petrol cans, the knife you used in the attack, and a crossbow. You wrote letters to your family dripping with self-pity. On the day of the attack, you first parked well away from the Hunt family home to check if Louise's father was there. Researching his work when you saw his car was indeed outside the house. You approached a second time with a bag of Louise's clothes and a thank you card to Carol and John Hunt, obviously part of a plan to trick Mrs. Hunt into letting you in the house. You first talked to Carol Hunt on the doorstep and persuaded her to admit you. She spoke kindly to you, but you then attacked her, stabbing her to death within moments of entering. You then left the house to collect the crossbow. Louise Hunt had been working in a building in the garden of the house. When she came in, you restrained her with duct tape round her wrists and ankles and gagged her. You kept her there alive for over 2.5 hours. She must have come to realise you'd already killed her mother. During that time, you raped her. Then you murdered her by shooting her with the crossbow as her sister Hannah was about to enter the house. Hannah Hunt was in a rush. She saw you and realised something was very wrong. You then shot her with the crossbow, causing an injury she could never hope to survive, but she remained alive long enough to see the unspeakable violence you had already inflicted on her mother and her sister. Hannah was able to call for help, but when the emergency services arrived, they could not save her. You had fled. You were arrested the next day, whereupon you made a last-minute attempt to kill yourself. I have heard John Hunt, Amy Hunt and Alex Klein speak of their dreadful loss. They were difficult to listen to, given the devastation and heartbreak they recounted. They spoke of Carol, Louise and Hannah as bringing joy, colour and happiness into the lives of everyone they knew. They were funny, hard-working and caring people. Each precious life, so full of potential, of future successes and celebrations, torn away by your appalling violence. The statements of John and Amy Hunt also demonstrated great courage and determination that your terrible crimes will not define them or stop them leading the lives that Carol, Louise and Hannah Hunt would have wished for them. they showed a gentle heroism of which you, Kyle Clifford, can only dream. I've already announced the ultimate sentence I will impose. I now need to set out the technical legal reasoning behind the sentences I have decided upon. To deal with lesser matters, I will impose concurrent terms of 1 year's imprisonment for counts 1 and 2, the possession of the crossbow and the possession of the knife. I choose those sentences on the basis of category A2 under the Sentencing Council guidelines, with the aggravation of their planned use and the threat to the crossbow posed to police officers on the 10th of July. The only mitigation is your lack of previous convictions and, to a limited extent, your age. After a trial, the sentence would have been 15 months, but I deduct 20% for your guilty plea well before trial. The surcharge provisions apply and the order can be drawn up accordingly. I make the order for the deprivation of the items on the list uploaded onto the digital case system by the prosecution, including the crossbow, your laptop and phone. The proper sentence for rape is guided by the Sentencing Council. I find the rape of Louise Hunt to fall into the highest range of the top category 1A for the reasons identified by the prosecution. There is no element of double counting, as I have to impose a concurrent sentence given the nature of the sentence for the murders. I therefore take the upper end of the range of 19 years. There is mitigation in your lack of previous convictions, but serious aggravation in the planning of the crime. I will therefore pass a sentence of 20 years imprisonment for that offence. There are no Sentencing Council guidelines currently in force for the offence of false imprisonment, and the circumstances of that offence are so intertwined with the murders that it is hard to separate them. But in any event, it has to be concurrent to the life sentences, so double counting and totality are not issues. Louise Hunt's detention was prolonged, planned, in her own home, and it falls within the Sentencing Council definition of domestic abuse. For this offence, you are also entitled to a deduction for your guilty plea. I therefore pass a sentence after that 20% reduction of 8 years imprisonment. Guidance on the imposition of the mandatory life sentence custodial term is set out in Schedule 21 of the Sentencing Act 2020. A whole life order is normally to be imposed for the murder of 2 or more people where each murder involves a substantial degree of premeditation or planning. Such a disposal is a rare one and reserved for only the most extreme cases. I have considered the guidance of the Court of Appeal in the decisions of Stewart and others, of Kigundu and Osborne. I will not add to the length of these remarks by rehearsing what is set out with great clarity in those judgments, save to highlight 2 points. First, Schedule 21 must be applied in a flexible, not rigid way to achieve a just result. Second, that although paragraph 2.2 of that schedule may have had in mind 2 murders planned, then committed on separate occasions, those provisions do not exclude the most severe order being made for multiple killings on the same day. I am satisfied so that I am sure that you both planned and contemplated killing all 3 of your victims. I've already mentioned your planning. You knew the routine and habits of that household. You clearly anticipated that Carol Hunt would be in the house as you went equipped to trick your way inside. You must have known Louise Hunt would be working in the building in the garden, as you knew her routine, and she was the obvious target to be raped and murdered. You knew the routines of the household. You were there for over 4 hours and must have anticipated that Hannah Hunt would return. While you had used Louise Hunt's phone to ensure John Hunt would not be home any time soon, you made no such inquiry about Hannah. You would have known she wore a uniform for work, which she would be bound to come home to change before doing anything else in the evening. I am sure that Hannah too was part of your premeditation and that you intended to murder her if the chance presented itself. Those findings alone could lead to the imposition of a whole life term, but there are 4 further very serious aggravating factors. First, the relevant section of the schedule is triggered by, quote, the murder of 2 or more persons, I stress, or more. It seems to me the fact there were, quote, more, unquote, must be a relevant factor for a judge to have in mind. Otherwise, the courts would be saying the murder of 3 people added nothing to the sentence for the murder of 2, an unthinkable proposition. Second, the rape of Louise Hunt, of which the jury found you guilty last week, which offence was part of the same plan and the same course of conduct as the 3 killings. Third, these murders took place against a woman with whom you had been in an intimate relationship and her family, and so is within the Sentencing Council guidance on domestic abuse, which context makes crimes even more serious. Fourth, the murders of Louise and Hannah Hunt must have involved them becoming aware of the murders you had already committed, thereby inflicting dreadful mental suffering before death, a specified aggravating factor under the schedule. You have been referred to at times as a former soldier. In many cases, that would serve as significant mitigation. Not so in your case, however, as your 2 years in the army included 286 days at home claiming to be ill. You never saw active service, and your utility to the armed forces can be gleaned in a parting comment from your commanding officer that, quote, his character is wholly unsuited to military employment, and he has no care nor concern beyond himself, unquote. There are 3 matters of mitigation. First, your lack of previous convictions. Second, your relative youth, though you were already 26 years old by the time of these offences. Third, you pleaded guilty to the offences of murder, though not at the first opportunity. I have reflected on all 3 aspects. The Sentencing Council guidance makes clear there may be cases where a guilty plea should lead the court to draw back from imposing a whole life order. I have considered and rejected that course, as the factors in favour of such an order are so compelling that they far outweigh all those pieces of mitigation. I am left in no doubt that this is the sentence I must impose. The sentences I pass are therefore: for possession of an offensive weapon, the crossbow, 1 year's imprisonment, concurrent. For the possession of an offensive weapon, the knife, 1 year's imprisonment, concurrent. For the murder of Carol Hunt, life imprisonment with a whole life order, the early release provisions are not to apply. For the false imprisonment of Louise Hunt, 8 years imprisonment, concurrent. For the rape of Louise Hunt, 20 years imprisonment, concurrent. For the murder of Louise Hunt, life imprisonment with a whole life order. The early release provisions are not to apply. For the murder of Hannah Hunt, life imprisonment with a whole life order. The early release provisions are not to apply. I thank
Pardon? Blah, 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 blah. I'm talking. This is the sentence. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We're good to come out.
Judge Brutus areas on my sister Hannah was shot dead by that same Crossbow as well, and she arrived at the house later. The mother had been stabbed to death. She was relatively young. And the fact that in the rules change, Kyle Clifford was quite guilty cowardly manner to come
Hello, we're just talking. This is the level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
But the earlier reaction Martin, you alright? I'll be about here.
I'm just can't trace it.
I think let's listen
Come as close as you can.
The officer and the...
Ready? I am Detective Chief Inspector Nick Gardner from the Bedfordshire, Cambridgeshire and Hertfordshire Major Crime Unit. I would firstly like to pay tribute to the Hunt family, John and Amy, and Hannah's partner Alex. They have suffered unimaginable loss as a result of Clifford's actions. They have shown dignity and strength of courage throughout the investigation and trial, and although the sentence will provide little or no consolation, at least we know that Clifford will never be released from prison. Today, Clifford received a whole life sentence, which is fitting for the appalling nature of his crimes. Clifford showed once again that he is a coward. Despite overwhelming forensic evidence, he pleaded not guilty to rape. He refused to attend court for his trial or to hear his punishment. Aged just 26, Clifford has many years ahead of him to consider the consequences of his crime and the senseless devastation he has brought to others. I would like to thank my investigation team for their tireless work and dedication in bringing this case to court. Ultimately, it is their hard work, as well as the evidence secured by officers who attended in the initial response, that has resulted in today's sentence. I would also like to thank the many officers from Hertfordshire Constabulary, the Metropolitan Police Service and the City of London Police who were involved in the initial response to this horrific crime. Clifford was clearly a dangerous man, and these officers acted with immense bravery, knowing that he was likely armed and had killed 3 people just hours earlier. I would like to thank counsel for the prosecution and the Crown Prosecution Service, who we have worked closely together with throughout the duration of this case. 3 innocent women from the same family lost their lives simply because Clifford could not accept rejection or Louise's right to leave their relationship. There was nothing that Louise, Carol or Hannah could have done to predict the violence that ensued, or to prevent it from happening. They resisted Clifford's attack with bravery, and Hannah herself raised the alarm, despite having suffered an injury that would later take her life. Today's sentence sends a message to men who perpetrate serious acts of violence against women. You will be held accountable, and you will face the full force of the law. You can run, but you cannot hide from justice. Thank you.
I'm Lisa Kiff from the Crown Prosecution Service. Kyle Clifford is a murderer and rapist who at every turn has attempted to escape the gravity of his actions. From seeking to evade arrest to not attending his trial or the sentencing hearing today, his lack of remorse and accountability for the truly inhumane crimes he has committed has been laid bare. While Clifford pleaded guilty to the murders of Carol, Louise and Hannah Hunt, the Crown Prosecution Service took the decision to proceed with the rape charge. This was to ensure full justice was secured for Louise and to ensure that Clifford could be sentenced for the full extent of his offending. That decision has been vindicated by his conviction for the rape and by the sentence passed today, as Clifford will never be released from prison. On behalf of the Crown Prosecution Service, I want to express my heartfelt sympathies and admiration to the Hunt family. They had the strength and courage to attend court every day and hear firsthand the devastating truth of what happened to Carol, Hannah and Louise, something which, in stark contrast, Clifford was too cowardly to do. We hope today's sentence, which ensures Clifford can never hurt anyone again, can help the Hunt family with their healing process as they navigate the future and continue to honour the lives of Carol, Louise and Hannah. Thank you.
strategies including the Louise Hunt Prosecution Service, really composing the feeling that